Tonight, we debate 8 animated sequels. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Debate 8. If you are new here, definitely hit that like button. And if you're enjoying the content so far tonight, definitely hit that subscribe button so that you can be reminded every time we come back live with another new debate. And tonight's debate is going to be a pretty awesome one. We have a very fun topic for everyone to kind of go at each other with tonight. We are doing animated sequels. So basically a number 2 of an animated series. We're kind of limiting it to that. We're not doing 3s and 4s. So just the number 2 of a franchise series. And we got a lot of good ones tonight to go over. We got like Toy Story, Incredibles, How to Train Your Dragon, Frozen. The list goes on. Well, it goes on to about 8 because that's what we do. We pick 8 of them. We throw them in a tournament bracket and then you vote live here tonight in the chat. By the end of the show, you guys are going to pick one winner out of all these animated sequels. We got a couple of awesome guests for you to come down tonight. Oh, here we go. Of course, I got some volume, some feedback going on. Hold on, let's figure out where that's coming from. Oh, here we go. Figured it out. All right, so here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Here are our guests. We have 2 people here who have their own YouTube channels, and any links of descriptions of them are in the description below, so definitely check them out. We have Demille Hunt and Jay Wolin. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Jay, this is your second time here in the debate arena, I guess. I don't really have a name for it. Demille, this is your first time, so welcome as a newbie. We will walk you through this fun, exciting thing. We are doing animated sequels tonight. Demille, I'll start with you since this is your first time. We have a fun list of here. How big of a fan are you of animation? Are you a big animation guy? Because I know you do a lot of videos on your channel of animation.
Actually in school learning a degree in animation and visual effects with a focus on character animation right now. So I love animation, and every time I get a chance to watch something new and fresh, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And I love animation. It's one of my favorite genres of movies.
Yeah.
Check out.
Oh, I agree. It's definitely one of my favorites too, because there's the only limit in animation is your imagination. Obviously budget too, but in reality, it's your imagination and what you can draw or what you can animate digitally. That's really the limit of what you can do in it, and so that's why I really like it. Jay, how about you, man? Animation, how big are you as far as the genre goes?
I love it. I mean, I think that especially when you look at that kind of platform and that style, there are just a handful of different ways you can go about doing it and how anybody might choose to pick one of those or tell a story, whether it be hand drawn or computer generated or some combination of both, or live action and computer animated, whatever it might be, and kind of be able to merge all that together can always create for the very least probably a fascinating film in terms of how they're built, which I think is always something that's kind of fun to watch.
For sure.
I think, the Thunderdome is what you're looking for.
Oh, that's actually not bad. Okay, I like that. We'll put that on the list of the Thunderdome of debating. I like it. Okay, we'll add that. It's a nice little callback there. So let's go ahead and take a look. So these, like I said, we throw these movies into a tournament bracket, just like your NCAA tournament, and we have some great first round matchups for you tonight. So let's go over them real quick, and then we'll jump into our first one. The number 1 seed of Toy Story 2 is going up against the number 8 seed of Finding Dory. The number 4 seed Frozen 2 going up against the number 5 seed of Ralph Breaks the Internet. Number 3 seed Incredibles 2 going up against the number 6 seed Despicable Me 2. And the number 2 seed How to Train Your Dragon 2 going up against the 7 seed of Kung Fu Panda 2. Okay, let's get into our first matchup. 4 minutes on the clock. Demille, we'll start with you. Toy Story 2, Finding Dory. How do you feel about these films and this matchup in particular?
Well, this is actually a tough one because, you got two Pixar franchises going against each other. And one is probably more successful than the other, that being the Toy Story franchise. Toy Story has been going on a long time. And, Toy Story 2 in particular, since 1995.
Yeah.
I just think, wow, that's been so long. And, the thing that I think about Toy Story, Tim Allen, Tom Hanks, those guys really have pioneered their way through that franchise. And, when you look at, I just watched just a brief trailer earlier today of Toy Story 2. I've seen the movie, it's been a while, but when you look at Toy Story 2 at the time in 1995, it was really amazing and technological. And you can really look at it now and see how dated it is.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, one of the hallmarks of animation is how well can you tell the story? And they do an amazing job with that. So Toy Story 2, is probably, it's man, this is a close one. And then you got Finding Dory, which is the sequel to Finding Nemo. Finding Dory is another, like I said earlier, another Pixar movie.
Sure.
Very well done. And when you got someone like Ellen DeGeneres, she is just hilarious to me. She is so funny. This is a really, really nice family movie to watch. You really can't go wrong with either one of these. And, if I had to pick between one of these, gosh, it is razor close.
All right.
Man.
So we'll hold off your vote quite yet. They'll give you some 2 minutes to decide. We'll go over to Jay. Demille is torn. He's on the fence. Which way are you leaning about the Toy Story 2 or Finding Dory?
Well, I think just like he said, when you've got two films like this, especially from the same studio, and one that I would guess for the most part, you talk about animated features, especially digital ones, Pixar is really at the top of that ladder. So I was actually surprised that these two matched up this way so early on. I think they're the only two Pixar movies in the whole bracket even, so to have to knock one out right out the gate is pretty rough. When you look at the legacy of Toy Story, like he was talking about, you're right. It's been one of those franchises that, in a lot of ways, I feel like we maybe can't even get away from. Can't get some space from. I know that they've taken big leaps in time, especially in terms of the two most recent sequels. But it's one of those franchises that I feel like might be on its last leg, and one that, for better or worse, might be okay to let it finally go. I think, at least as somebody for myself, when I'm looking at films, I'm ready for something new, something original from Pixar.
Right.
I don't know if I need a Toy Story 5, 6, and 7. I'd rather see new original properties and new original stories. I think that's why I would probably lean a little bit more towards Finding Dory.
Mm-hmm.
I know that
Interesting.
Talking about the second Toy Story, but
Wow.
I like that it's only two movies. It doesn't feel like, at least as far as I've ever been told, we're not going to get another one. I like that it wrapped it up in a nice little bow in two films.
Wow, I'm a little surprised right now that Finding Dory's getting so much love for everybody. Honestly, let's see. I want to jump into the chat here a little bit. Vixro says, I like how they blended Meeting Marlin and Finding Dory. So yeah, so they did incorporate some of the stuff from the first one, which was good. Now time is run out, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start the poll, and then I'm going to give you my opinion as the poll's going on, and I'm going to explain to you, if this is your first time, exactly how we vote. So we vote right here in the chat in YouTube. You don't have to go anywhere else. If you want to vote for Toy Story 2 to move on to the second round, you do exclamation vote 1 in the chat. There is a space in between the word vote and the number, so do exclamation vote and the number, in this case number 1 for Toy Story 2. If you want to do Finding Dory, do exclamation vote 8 in the chat. Okay, so here's the thing. Toy Story 2 very well might be my least favorite of the Toy Story movies. I found that, especially rewatching it, there's way too many pop culture references in this movie for my liking. It's not as evergreen as as the first one or even the third one is. And I think they fell victim to possibly look. It was a good story, so I'm not going to take away from the story of the second one, but too much reliance on the modern day. Now, Finding Dory is tough for me because I didn't really like this movie. I thought it had a nice message, and as a parent myself, I definitely like felt the heartfeltness of a child being lost. But I don't know. For me, I think I'm leaning Toy Story 2 just because I don't know. I think it might be a better film. Demille, did you vote yet?
Yeah, I'm trying to vote, and it's not. I don't see a place where I can put it in here.
Just right in the chat, right in the YouTube chat. No, go. You got to open up a YouTube chat window, like an actual stream.
Okay, yeah, I'm watching the stream live in my browser right now. But
yeah.
I don't see a place where I can actually type in.
You don't have the YouTube chat?
I can see everybody else's chat commenting right now, but I don't see a place where I can actually type.
Are you on StreamYard or are you on YouTube?
On YouTube, the actual website.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let me see.
Well, it's where the regular YouTube chat is. That's where we do our voting. But
okay.
So we'll get you in for next time. By the time we get to the next round, we're going to get you in voting. But the time has run out for now. And by the slimmest narrow of margins, Toy Story 2 is going to move on. Man, this was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Jay, you're shaking your head. You do not approve of this? Not happy?
I'm disappointed. I love me a Cinderella story.
Yeah. Well, we might have some other Cinderella stories. I'm hoping, because there's some other ones that I'm really a big fan of, and we'll see if they move on. And by the way, I do got to say, we do have one more Pixar movie that still is left in here. We have Incredibles 2, which is still in play. So we'll see how far that one goes. So let me go ahead and add Toy Story 2.
Voting in, by the way, I just figured it out.
Okay, awesome, good. So we'll get you in on the next round since the voting did close, but we will get you in. Which one were you going to vote for?
I was going to do Toy Story.
Okay, so it wouldn't have made a difference. So that's good.
Okay.
you still voted on the right side of history, which is good. Let's jump back to the bracket real quick. So now we have Toy Story 2 moving on. Now we are getting to a matchup that I think is going to be quite the discussion here. We have the number 4 seed Frozen 2 going up against the number 5 seed Ralph Breaks the Internet. Jay, we will start with you this time. We have a sequel of Frozen 2, which is one of the highest grossing animated films of all time, going up against Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. How do you feel about these two films and this matchup?
So you're right. I think that this is maybe a little bit closer than what we've seen so far. For me, when I look at a movie like Frozen 2, I remember a lot of the build up for it and listening to their interviews with like Kristen Bell and the rest of the cast saying that, this is a movie that everybody I'm sure has been waiting for and it's going to be awesome and it's such a great time and everyone's going to love it. And then I went to the theater and was woefully underwhelmed in more ways than one. For me, the thing that I did love about it was the music. I thought that was pretty solid throughout.
Okay.
I really liked, what's his name? Kristoff's like almost borderline 80s musical number in the middle of the film. I got a good kick out of that. But as like a story and as a whole, I really did struggle with it. Like her being the fifth like caregiver or whatever, and understanding that because she went to the ice palace in the middle of the lake. I was like, what is going on? I don't understand what's happening. So I really did struggle with that. I think that really just favors something like Ralph Breaks the Internet. That's a pretty streamlined story. Oh, we got to go get this wheel so that we can fix her game so that she can go back and, live here in the arcade. It's like, okay, I can get that. I can grasp my head around that concept. And I honestly, just as somebody who likes the internet and likes those types of things, And YouTube in particular, I got a good kick out of that when they go to that knockoff site and they're trying to rack up all the views to get all the money to buy the wheel. I don't know. I think that movie just ultimately spoke to me a little bit more. Maybe that's just a product of my age more than anything else.
All right. Interesting take. Demille, let's go to you. What do you think about these two films?
Yeah, the thing about Frozen is I took my time watching Frozen 2. No particular reason. I did see the first one, and I thought the first one, my only complaint was pretty much my same complaint about the second, is that, there's a lot of singing and things like that. I'm not really a fan of movies like that.
Okay.
But the one thing that I will say in terms of, the animation and the visual effects, oh my God, it was amazing. I was really impressed with. I was pleasantly surprised by that. And I think it kind of made up for all the singing. I didn't really need that. So it was a nice surprise with that. Now, Ralph Breaks the Internet. That's my hands down. I love that movie.
Wow. Okay.
The thing about Ralph Breaks the Internet that's really cool to me is, like Jay was saying, he alluded to, there are so many, it's a rewatchable movie. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you have so much, it's kind of like Ready Player One in the sense that there's so many Easter eggs in it.
Sure.
When they go into the internet and you see all the different neighborhoods that they go to, and, they go to YouTube, they go to Marvel,
right,
which that's really cool because I'm a huge Marvel fan. And, you just see all the different Disney franchises in there. There's things you can go and watch right now that you didn't see the last time, and I love movies like that. So it's a tough call.
Yeah, it's not as tough for me. I guess I'm on the opposite with you guys here. I loved Frozen 2. I think that movie was great. I really hate the first one. The first Frozen, I cannot stand that movie. I think it's oh God, the story was boring. Olaf was the most annoying character I've ever seen on screen. Music was fine. It was definitely catchy music, but I thought Frozen 2 was hands down a way better improvement. The music was way better. Olaf I actually enjoyed. I thought it was funny. And for me, Ralph Breaks the Internet just didn't do it for me. It just paled in comparison, I think, to the first one. I really wanted to like this because I love the first one. The first one really even just gets me all teared up inside, and it's such a great message. And I just felt like this one suffered from not really having a story. I get there was a MacGuffin with having to get the wheel or the steering wheel. I didn't think that was. I don't know. I didn't really love the story, and I felt like the movie didn't have much to say, unfortunately. But I might be in the minority, but it's really not up to me. It's up to you guys. Well, I have my vote, and these guys have their votes too. But it's everybody here. We are all voting, and they made the arguments. It's time for you guys to vote. If you want to vote for Frozen, do vote 4 in the chat. Frozen 2, that is. And if you want to do Ralph Breaks the Internet, do vote 5. I made myself pretty clear. I'm going with Frozen 2. Demille, which way are you leaning right now? Which one are you going to vote for?
Frozen 2 was great, but I had to go with Ralph Breaks the Internet. I love that movie. I like both of them, but specifically Ralph Breaks the Internet. Yeah.
Okay.
And I voted 2 this time.
All right, Jay, no love for Frozen for you, so I'm assuming Ralph Breaks the Internet is the way that you're going tonight.
Yes.
Man, I think this is going to be our first upset of the night, and I'm looking at the chat here, and everything that people are voting, and it looks like I must be in the minority. I really must be, because people are going mostly Ralph Breaks the Internet. So hey, look. I don't want to backtrack at anything, but I did enjoy the movie. I thought the first one was just so much better. Maybe that's clouding my judgment. Maybe that's not fair. But clearly for you guys, it's fine.
To your point, real quick, I did like Olaf better in the second one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Which is a huge improvement. I'm sorry. He was one of the worst characters almost of all time. It made me really dislike Josh Gad. Like for a while, I was just like, I hate that guy, and I know it wasn't his fault. It really is nothing personal against him. It was just I hated the character so much. But I thought he redeemed himself in this movie, especially that one scene where he does the recap of the first movie. That was one of the best scenes of the whole movie. You got to at least admit that, right, guys? Come on. That part was good.
Michael Pena and Ant-Man more than anything.
Yes.
All right.
Comparison. Yeah.
So yeah, totally, 100%. It had shades of that for sure. All right, so we have our first upset of the night. We have Ralph Breaks the Internet moving on. Let's close out the poll. Let's go back to our bracket. There we go. 63% of the vote. Ralph Breaks the Internet, pretty commanding. So that's going to be a very interesting second matchup for Toy Story 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. Man, based on what the discussions were today, Ralph might have some legs going. All right, so let's take a look at our third matchup of the first round. We are going Incredibles 2 going up against Despicable Me 2. Demille, we will start with you on this one. Incredibles 2, basically the sequel to the better Fantastic Four movie that we've gotten. And then we have Despicable Me 2 from our first one out of the gate from Illumination, coming off I don't know financially if Despicable Me necessarily was a hit. It made a lot of money, but it was definitely well received. A lot of people really liked Despicable Me. How do you feel about these two films in this matchup?
Yeah, this is probably going to be one that I might be in the minority. I might surprise a lot of you with this one because, I felt like I really enjoyed both. Well, let me say this. Both movies were actually pretty good. I think that the thing about Incredibles 2 that sticks out to me is that there was such a big time jump from the first Incredibles to Incredibles 2 that by the time Incredibles 2 came out, I don't know, some of the excitement, it just, while it was a good movie, the animation was good, it just, I don't know, some of that just kind of left with me with Incredibles 2. But it's not that it was a bad movie, it just didn't really resonate with me the way that I thought it would. And in comparison, it's like Despicable Me 2, it's like I'm a sucker for Minions and Gru, and it was to me, it was a really funny movie. I really enjoyed the humor, and gosh, who would have thought that this movie would have had the most replayed song of all time, and Because I'm Happy. I never thought that would surface from this movie. So it's I'm a little biased with this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So leaning more Despicable Me 2. Jay, how do you feel about this one?
So for me, Despicable Me 2 is honestly just a despicable film. It
Whoa! Shots fired.
I don't know. I sat and rewatched it a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
And even right out the gate when she's like trying to recruit him to come be part of her hero league or whatever, and then they're set up in the mall. It was one of those movies that I was watching and was just like, what is happening? What is going on here? And it just never really worked for me the way I think maybe it should or could. But
okay.
Again, honestly, I think that's mostly just because of my age more than anything else. Maybe I don't fall into the demographic where that movie should work for somebody like me.
Okay.
And then really, I don't love Incredibles 2. I think that's something else that I kind of struggle with when it comes to that film, especially when you do look at the first one and just how almost on point it was. I think like you were talking about before, being that Fantastic Four movie that I think we all want and deserve. Mm-hmm. That it fills that void in such a beautiful way. And the way it encompasses family and the way it talks about that kind of structure is just fantastic. I know for a long time the biggest thing was, Brad Bird didn't want to do another one because he wasn't quite sure where to go next.
Right.
But I like that it picks up with Elastigirl and it kind of moves the narrative that way, especially for, with a more of a predominant female lead. But it's hard to top just how good the first Incredible film is.
Yeah, I don't disagree. To the age thing, when they first announced it, I was actually really looking forward to them aging up a little bit. But having seen what they did, I'm okay more with continuing the story, especially a lot of the stuff we got with Jack as a young baby and just learning all of his new powers, and that scene where he's fighting that raccoon. We would have missed out on something like that. So the age thing I'm okay with. I gotta say though, I'm with Demille on this one. Definitely against Jay. Despicable Me 2. I really like this movie. I might end up being in the minority here. Incredibles 2 might be the winner, but I flat out love the Despicable franchise. Okay, I love all the Despicable Me 1 through 3. I am an apologist for Minions. I know that is an unpopular opinion. I'm definitely looking forward to Minions 2. So for me, I lead more Despicable Me 2 because I thought it was funny. I really like the Minions. I like the story of now that he is a good guy, that he's got to kind of do more missions as more of a good guy than in the first, continuing that story from the first one where he has a change of heart. I thought the stuff with the Minions was funny. Incredibles 2 was just, I don't know, it was a little predictable for me. I liked it. Like you said, I think you said the animation was stellar, and it was definitely a high achievement in animation. But I just thought the story was lacking. I like the characters more than I like the story. But maybe that's just me. But we got to vote. We got about 30 seconds left to go. So make sure you get all your votes in. If you want to vote for Incredibles 2, do !vote 3. If you want to do Despicable Me 2, do !vote 6. And I don't know, guys. It looks like we might have another upset tonight. It looks like most of the people here are voting for Despicable Me 2. So it looks like me and Demille might be on the right side here. Jay, I know this probably discussed you. So far, you've not had a good night so far with the movies that you've been kind of championing. But hey, that's how it goes, right? But I'm sure that there are worse films that could move on. Although you did vote for Finding Dory, so maybe I'm wrong on this one. All right, so 0 time left on the clock. The votes have been tallied. They're calculated. Despicable Me 2, which I gotta say I was rooting for. I did not think that this was going to make it, but it was pretty convincing. 67% of the vote. So we got another upset, man. This might be the night of upsets, I tell you. All right, let's close out this poll. Let's go back to our bracket. Look at that. Despicable Me 2 moving on to the second round. Let's now jump into our final matchup of the first round. We have the number 2 seed, How to Train Your Dragon 2, going up against the number 7 seed of Kung Fu Panda 2. Jay, we will start with you on this one. We have the sequel to, which was generally received positively out of nowhere. How to Train Your Dragon 1 surprised a ton of people, and going up against another DreamWorks movie of another franchise that popped up out of nowhere, and people really enjoyed the first one of Kung Fu Panda, and this one is Kung Fu Panda 2. How do you feel about this matchup, Jay?
So for me, Kung Fu Panda 2 was a bit of a struggle. I sat down to rewatch it again a couple nights ago and was like, oh yeah, this is the one where there's like the super big cat or something, and he's like locked in a prison and he fights his way out. And then I sat down to watch it and was like, when does all that happen? What am I missing here? And then I quickly realized that was a totally different movie altogether.
Yeah, that was the first one. Right.
When I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to watch something and it's something completely different, I mean, I think it's fine. I think in terms of kind of the trilogy that they've built, at least to this point, it it plays nicely within there, and kind of builds up Poe as as he progresses through his kung fu journey, so to speak. So I think it's an okay movie. I can't remember the gentleman who played the villain. I'm blanking on his name now, but I like him a lot. It says a lot. I can't remember his name. So it's okay. It wasn't like my favorite movie. It was a bit of a shock for me. Again, it wasn't the story that I ultimately thought I was going to sit down and see.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at How to Train Your Dragon 2, you want to talk about, I know we talked a lot about like really good animation. That might be out of any of these, maybe the top two in terms of animation and what they're doing, in terms of how they built the dragons, how they interact with the water, how they did a lot of the shading and lighting with those characters. And then on top of that, to take it one step further and even age everybody up a little bit, I thought was an excellent choice and a really fascinating way to, again, kind of build out these characters and this story in this world. And so I think that resonated with me a lot when it came to this film. And I'm a guy that just likes dragons in general.
Yeah,
so anytime
right.
you're going to have me sit down and watch a movie with them, I'm probably going to be open to it at the very least. And to see where basically two bull dragons fight each other in the middle,
Right.
Short of a giant kaiju fight in Pacific Rim, was pretty awesome for me.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Demille, how do you feel about these two?
Yeah, so, two DreamWorks movies facing off against each other. And, I'll be honest, this was both of these movies I was really struggling with. I think that definitely I like Kung Fu Panda's 2 humor a lot in this movie. I thought it was funny, but when you think about like certain top tier animated movies, it just seemed like there were some things to me that were lacking in both movies. I thought the story and the animation was okay, but I don't know. It's just, this was really because I actually watched How to Train Your Dragon 2 just a few hours ago, and I watched Kung Fu Panda 2 last night. And, of the two, I mean, it's so close in how I didn't really care for either one of them. So this is going to be like a coin flip when I make my vote on this one. But
Interesting.
I thought as a whole, I thought both movies were well animated. I thought the stories were good in both movies, but there was just no connection in either one of these. It really just jumped at me like some of the other movies. So, it's interesting that, one of these is definitely the 7 seed. So
You're right.
So yeah, it's going to be a tough vote for me. I'll have to flip a coin on this one.
Okay. So if we do have the poll open now, if you want to vote for How to Train Your Dragon 2, do !vote 2 in the chat. If you want to vote Kung Fu Panda 2, do !vote 7 in the chat. My opinion is I actually really enjoy both of these films a lot, but I think that How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the far superior film, and it's not even close. I mean, look, the animation in both of these are actually really good. The physics that they do in Kung Fu Panda and all of them with the fighting styles, I love what they do. They do such quick movements that it almost looks, it almost looks live action, like the way they do it. It's very well done. And you're right, Demille, the humor in Kung Fu Panda 2 definitely is there. A lot of funny jokes, a lot of meta stuff too. I really enjoy that film. And man, Jack Black crushes it as a voiceover actor in that. He really does. He's not over the top like at all. And he really plays a character. He doesn't play Jack Black, and I think he's the highlight of it for sure. But I don't know, man. For me, it's How to Train Your Dragon 2. I think personally, this is one of the most underrated trilogies of all time, especially animated movies. Man, this movie just hits you in the heart. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't watched it yet. If you haven't, definitely go watch it. But spoiler alert, when his dad dies, I mean, that's just a kick in the gut for sure. And especially when it's Toothless that does it. And it just breaks your heart. Now, the reason why I'm going How to Train Your Dragon 2, not only do I love this movie, but I think that I was gripped into the story from start to finish. Kung Fu Panda 2 kind of lulled a little in the center of the film. The second act was a little slow. I thought the first and third act were much better. So for me, because of those reasons, I am definitely going How to Train Your Dragon 2. But it looks like most people are going How to Train Your Dragon 2 as well. So at least we have the number 2 seed now moving on as well. Pretty significant percentage here. We got almost 72% of the vote. So we definitely have a lot of people who enjoy this film. So let me go ahead. Let me add How to Train Your Dragon to the bracket. Let's jump in there right now. So there you go. We have completed the first round. We are now heading into the second round. We got some good ones. We got some top heavy ones. The first and second seed have made it, but the 3 and 4 are knocked out. They were upset by the 5 and 6. So let's jump into it. Let's do our number 1 seed Toy Story 2 going up against the number 5 seed of Ralph Breaks the Internet. We are going to Demille to start on this one. Man, this might be closer than we might expect. How do you feel about these?
Yeah. And now we're getting to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So the second round is always the hardest.
2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. Yeah. I really think that with these 2 movies, this is definitely Disney and Disney pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. And the thing about Toy Story 2, it's dated. And I think that's one of the things that may hurt it in this round versus Ralph Breaks the Internet, like just came out. I think it was either last year or year before last. It's a fairly recent movie. And like I said before, I still like the idea that movie has so much replay value and so many Easter eggs in that movie. I really like it. And Toy Story 2, it's been so long, 1995, that doesn't mean that it's not a bad movie. It's just that, it really makes you wonder, hey, is this movie really still standing the test of time right now? And when you got movies like Ralph Breaks the Internet, it's going to be tough for it to move on, I think.
Jay, what do you think? Can the old school classic compete with this new internet age of the Ralph Breaks the Internet?
So I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to this movie. With Toy Story 2 in '99 and Ralph Breaks the Internet in 2018, there's a big gap there. And I think when you look at especially the actual animation itself,
sure,
there's obviously a gap there in terms of how these films actually look. But so it'll be interesting to see, like you said, how it breaks down in terms of does the old school kind of the nostalgic factor of Toy Story 2 outlast something modern like Ralph Breaks the Internet. I mean, for me, when it comes to these 2 films, I think maybe this is going to sound bad because I fought for Ralph a while ago, but I think one of the things that is endearing about Toy Story 2 are the characters it ultimately introduces.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at, and I'm going to blank on the characters. When you look at Bullseye and Jessie, I think are maybe 2 characters that people know a lot, would recognize a lot more than I think. Is it Shank? Is that the crazy driver in
Gal Gadot? Yeah.
Breaks the Internet?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just kind of how memorable Toy Story ultimately was, and to some degree how basic it is. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's a story that's simple in a good way, especially for that kind of genre. Ralph Breaks the Internet, like you were saying before, has a lot of things to it in terms of rewatchability, a lot of Easter eggs that every time you go back, you'll see a little bit more every time. That's a lot of information to process, especially on a first viewing. Toy Story 2, you don't really run into stuff like that. There are a couple Easter eggs here and there that Disney's always done, but nothing to the extent like Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Sure. Yeah, I did trash on Ralph Breaks the Internet earlier, and I did speak more highly of Toy Story 2, but I think I think for me, I'm actually leaning Ralph Breaks the Internet on this one. Because like I said, Toy Story 2, not my favorite. I do love the Jessie stuff. The first time you watch that, you're right. The Jessie stuff really hits you hard. You know, watching a toy get abandoned makes you think like, man, it's so funny that Pixar makes you feel connected to these inanimate objects. Well, I guess technically they're animated, but or animate objects, but you know what I mean. Like they get to really feel for a toy, and they really do that in this. So half of this movie I think is really strong, and then there's another half of it that I just it's lacking to me. It seriously is lacking. But I do love the characters of Ralph Break the Internet. I do love them and their relationship and how they're always fighting for each other. So I think personally, I think I'm leaning Ralph Breaks the Internet. So I'm opening the poll here. I really want to see what people have to say. If you want to vote for Toy Story 2, do exclamation vote 1. If you want to do Ralph Breaks the Internet, do exclamation vote 5. Here's what I will say, and I'll get you guys' opinion on this. I agree 100% that the animation doesn't hold up. Toy Story 1 doesn't hold up at all. You don't go back and watch that movie. You live with your experience. Live with your nostalgia for Toy Story 1, because you will be disappointed if you go back and rewatch it. But should we actually penalize Toy Story 2 for that? Or do we, for not holding up? Is it really its own fault? Should we ignore that? Or is that something that we really should consider looking at movies in 2020? Demille, what do you think?
Well, I think when you have a movie that has a really good story, it can definitely can stand the test of time. And I think that a movie like Toy Story could do it. It couldn't be just on visuals alone. It has to be something about that story that was just so unique and compelling. Like let's just say, for example, another movie like Up is pretty old as well. That's another Pixar movie. That story, I believe, even today could hold up. But I think the visuals too were still a little bit better than Toy Story's was. Toy Story 2's visuals were. So I think that the story is going to be the thing that would save an older movie like a Toy Story 2. It has to have something that just really resonates with you.
Yeah. Jay, did you have a comment on that?
I would say absolutely not. It's something that you can't hold against Toy Story 2. And it's not even necessarily because of Toy Story 2. Mm-hmm. I'd actually take it back to Toy Story 1. Because without that, we don't get to Ralph Breaks the Internet. Toy Story was the first full animated feature. It was the first movie where people were willing to take that leap and really dive into that kind of media and that type of visual and really shoot to put a story together like that on screen. Yeah. So no, I wouldn't hold that against it. I think Ralph Breaks the Internet should be thankful that a franchise like Toy Story even exists.
To that end, Ralph Breaks the Internet should be thankful for the people who are watching tonight, because they just knocked out the number 1 seed of the tournament. Ralph Breaks the Internet is going to move on pretty handily. Well, I wouldn't say super handily, but 60% of the vote. I mean, that's a pretty large margin for an upset. So I'll take it. Ralph Breaks the Internet, the number 5 seed, moving on to the finals. Let's now figure out who they are going to be facing, either the number 6 seed, Despicable Me 2, or the number 2 seed of How to Train Your Dragon. So let's start with, who are we starting with? We are starting with Demille on this one, right? Wait, what? Let's see. Demille, Jay. No, we're starting with Jay on this one. Jay, Despicable Me 2, the movie you absolutely despise. Is there any hope for you to have any positive spin on the fact that this movie may be better than How to Train Your Dragon 2?
No, I'm going to stick with my original prognosis. It's just a despicable movie, frankly. So I'm happy to just talk about How to Train Your Dragons 2 for 2 minutes. So,
okay.
Again, when you look at that story and just the way it's kind of built out and all the little intricacies in it, even something like the scar on his chin and how that played into the second film and how it's part of his mother's narrative and how all that transpires.
Yeah,
I thought was just great. I thought that was something that I don't know if they thought about that in the first movie, or if they will, and then had the forethought to say, oh, we're going to do that in the second one and add that and have that be a part of it, or if that was something that they just did and thought would be a cool design for them, and then said, hey, let's put something, let's add something to that. Let's make that be meaningful in a very, very specific way.
Sure.
So I just think the thought behind that film, there's just so much that went into it and what they're talking about and what they're trying to do, especially in terms of family, and how his mother comes back, and like you said, how his father ultimately passes away. That element of that film just works for me way more than anything like Despicable Me would.
All right, Despicable Me not getting love from Jay. Demille, can Despicable Me get any love from you for this matchup?
It definitely can. And in this scenario, I think you got a movie that has really good visuals, really good visuals in How to Train Your Dragon 2, lots of dramatic lighting, a really good story, and a really solid animated movie on its own right. It's really nothing, really bad that you can say. It didn't really resonate with me the way some of the other movies did. But in terms of the visuals here in a case, we know that it has some visuals and some definitely some effects that are way superior than what you see in Despicable Me. Now, that being said, I think Despicable Me is the movie that, at the end of the day, it's so funny. And I think that's what really, like I said, again, I think that it's great to have a movie that has great visuals, but you also need to have a good story. And it also is great when you have a movie that's got really good humor to make you laugh as well, especially if it being an animated movie.
Sure.
So I think for me, I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably end up still liking Despicable Me in this one. Definitely.
Yeah, I said that I love the Despicable Me movies. I stand by it. I'm not going to shy away from my feelings on this movie, on the franchise, really, not just this movie, but the franchise as a whole. But I do got to say, I can't, in my conscience, vote Despicable Me over How to Train Your Dragon. I stand by my statement that this rivals any animated trilogy. It rivals the Toy Story movies as a whole, especially given how Toy Story 2 I think is a bit lacking. I think How to Train Your Dragon 2 is better than Toy Story 2. So I think it's brilliant. I love the story. I love that they aged them up. And I know we're not really here to talk about the third one, but I love how they aged them up even more for the third one. I love that the time jump, because you can do so much more of a story narrative. They're 20 years old now you're mixing in a different emotions. He's not a kid anymore. He's now gotta do things that a 20-year-old will do, and I hope I get to talk about more about that in the next round if this thing moves on. But until then, it's time to vote. So let's go ahead and do that right now. If you want to vote for Despicable Me 2, go ahead and do ¡vote 6 in the chat. If you want to do How to Train Your Dragon 2, do !vote 2 in the chat. I'm not going to hide what I'm doing. I am doing How to Train Your Dragon 2 all the way. Jay is with me. Demille is not. He is going Despicable Me 2. Let me go and see what everyone else is doing, because I've been neglecting the chat tonight, but I want to get some of the chat there. Curtis jumps in and says a lot of good. He's talking about the last one. So let's see. Oh, Movie Files is here. Hey, Movie Files, welcome. We got a lot of people voting. Curtis voted for How to Train Your Dragon. Vix voted How to Train Your Dragon. Movie Files did How to Train Your Dragon. Oh, wait, downtime. Oh, Demille, you did an L instead of an exclamation.
Oh,
let's because I saw a 0. I was like, wait, I know he did it.
You know
so
what? That may be telling right now.
I know, right? I gotta say, I need Despicable Me to have at least one vote. Okay, I gotta feel a little better about myself that it wasn't completely shut out. Even though, look, any other matchup, I promise you, I would go with you. I really would. because I don't hate this movie like some people to my right, left, or right, whichever direction we're going here. You got some serious hate. So at least, Jay, you don't. Look, it's a blowout. We got 15 seconds left, so I think it's easy to call it here. Don't worry, Jay. You do not have to talk about Despicable Me anymore. Now, let me ask you a question while time's running out, Jay. Do you just hate this Despicable movie, or do you hate all of the Despicable movies?
I like them for what they. I don't like them.
Okay. Not a fan. Okay.
I've seen them all. I saw them all opening day.
Okay.
But no.
So
I give it a try. I keep going back, even though I don't know any better.
Right. You're a glutton for punishment. So then you have no interest so far in Minions 2, but you are going to see it, is what you're saying. That is the moral of the story. Okay. Got it.
If and or when it comes out, based on, Hollywood in general at the moment. So
Sure.
That's true.
I didn't expect Scooby-Doo to be a movie that would bend, honestly. That was kind of shocking news.
Yeah, that was very shocking as well. More power to me though. I'm going to be spending less money at the movie theater when I rent that movie. That is definitely happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our bracket. We are now in the finals. We have the number 5 seed of Ralph Breaks the Internet going all the way to the finals, and now up against the semi-juggernaut of How to Train Your Dragon 2. It is going to be an uphill battle for Ralph Breaks the Internet to get it done. But Demille, we'll start with you. How do you feel about these? Dragon has been crushing it in the votes. Is there any way Ralph can overtake Dragon? How do you feel?
Well, I think here's a scenario where you got two movies that are just about as visually as impressive in their own rights. So, you really can't go wrong with either one of these movies from a visual standpoint. So visually, they're both fantastic movies, and that's the reason why they're in the finals right now. That's one of the reasons why they're in the finals. And I still think that while I didn't think that How to Train Your Dragon 2 was a bad movie. I don't know. It just seemed to me like Ralph Breaks the Internet had everything that I was looking for. It had humor. It had great visuals. It had great rewatchability. I liked it. And as much as I liked the first Wreck-It Ralph, I thought this one was even better. And I forgot when Jay mentioned that it had Gal Gadot in it. I forgot to mention that before. That was so cool that she was in there, and she looked just like Wonder Woman. I mean,
she kind of did,
practically is. So,
yeah.
So, great. And then that race sequence they had in that movie, that was fantastic. It was something right out of Fast and Furious.
Sure.
Amazing. I mean, it's kind of coming back to my memory now when Jay mentioned Gal Gadot, because that's where that scene takes place. And
definitely.
Yeah, I don't see myself moving past that right now.
Okay, so leaning more towards Ralph, Jay, how do you feel about this matchup, this final go?
I think it's a great one, especially when you look at two movies like this. I think it's interesting in its own right that two studios made it to the final as well, in DreamWorks and Disney.
Yeah.
Wasn't a matchup, two Disney films or two DreamWorks or whatever it might have been. So I think that by itself is kind of intriguing and speaks a lot to animation and what these studios are doing and the products that they're putting out. I do agree. I think both these films are stunning visually and really speak a lot to where we've come, especially, going back to talking about the original Toy Story. When you match these up against a film like that, which it's not even night and day. It's apples to, tiramisu. It's the totally different kind of thing.
Right.
I do love, again, How to Train Your Dragon in terms of family and the story and the narrative there, especially with the introduction of the mother. But when you look at Ralph Breaks the Internet, one of the things that I really loved about it and struggled with was how much is actually in there. But I appreciated that, I think, as well, and what Disney was trying to do, having had, recently acquired properties like Marvel and and Star Wars, and seeing them throughout. I love the sequence with Baby Groot where he's doing the Q&A. That I got a great laugh.
Yeah, that was good.
There's the scream, the stormtrooper scream, which isn't actually his, but that's what I always connected to. That found its way into the movie. That I got a huge laugh when that happened.
Yeah.
And then just seeing all the Disney princesses on screen was great as well. And I believe a lot of the women who
it's a great scene.
Played those characters came back and did that, and I thought that was really cool. So I think there are a lot of things to like about both these movies. Regardless of what you pick, if you had to sit down and watch one tonight, I really don't think you're going to go wrong either way.
Yeah, man. I'm still.
And Slaughter Race. Sorry, I like the Slaughter Race. God, I forgot about that.
The two. I'll say this: if Ralph has a chance against the number 2 seed who has been crushing it in the votes, the two of you have made an incredible argument for it, and you're even swaying me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. A bravo to the two of you who are pulling for this Cinderella upset. I'm gonna run the poll here. If you want to vote for Ralph Breaks the Internet 2, I don't know why I did that, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever written. Just Ralph Breaks the Internet. Do exclamation vote 5. If you want to do How to Train Your Dragon 2, do exclamation vote 2 in the chat right here. This is it. This is where we decide who is our winner. Man, you guys made such compelling arguments. Look, I like the first one better. Okay, I love Wreck-It Ralph. It's one of my all-time favorite Disney animated films. So I gotta get it out of my head to compare it, because I shouldn't do that. I should just judge it on its own. But even all of those great scenes that you just said, it's hard for me not to go with How to Train Your Dragon. I'll continue what I was saying before. I love the fact that they aged them up, and so now you're dealing, before when he was like this young tween, dealing with just figuring out who he was. Now he's got more adult situations that he's dealing with, between figuring out how to whether he wants to actually be a chief and run his whole village, dealing with being pretty much engaged, and figuring out a balance between this romantic relationship he has and the dragon riders. He deals with the death of his mother. He deals with finding death of his father, deals with finding his mother after being gone for 20 years. And there's a lot of death in this movie. For a kids animated movie, there's a lot of death. It's a very serious film. It is not all lighthearted, which I really appreciate. There's 10 seconds left. I got to vote before I make a fool of myself and forget to. But I'm assuming the two of you voted for Ralph Breaks the Internet, right?
Yep, I did, definitely, yeah.
Cool. I voted for How to Train Your Dragon. I don't think I got it in time, but that doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, Ralph Breaks the Internet slightly loses to How to Train Your Dragon. Man, How to Train Your Dragon is going to be our winner. Guys, I know that you pushed hard for Ralph Breaks the Internet. I think you guys did a valiant job. I hope you guys are not completely upset. I hope you feel that at the end of the day, this was an okay movie to win out on, because I think this is a fun movie, and if you haven't seen it, give it a try. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is our winner. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was a blast. I love talking movies. I love talking movies with other people. And look, the truth is, whether the film that you all out there voted for won or not, I love seeing everyone so involved and just having opinions about movies. It's the best thing. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Demille, let the people know what you got going on, where they can find you, about your YouTube channel. Let them know what you do.
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you for having me on. This was my first time, and I was a little nervous at first, but it was really cool, and I really enjoyed this. You know, hopefully the next time you have something like this going on, definitely, you know, let me know, and I definitely would like to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
But for everyone who's watching, you can reach me on YouTube, Downtime with Demille. That's my YouTube channel. I talk about Marvel, DC, I do movie trailer reactions, I talk about video games, you know, pretty much anything that's going on in pop culture. Just started talking about the Last Dance documentary about the 97-98 Chicago Bulls. So I try to cover it all. You can also catch me on Twitter at Demille Hunt. That's at DEMILLE Hunt, HUNT. And I pretty much talk about the same thing on there as well.
Right. Yeah, definitely go check his channel out. He does some awesome videos, which is why I reached out to Demille, because I definitely wanted him on the show. And awesome job, man. You definitely brought the heat tonight, and some good facts. It was very good. Jay, a second time in the books. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Tell the people what you got going on.
Yeah, just like you said, thanks for having me on. Greatly appreciate it. It's nice enough to get the opportunity to come on once, let alone twice. Hopefully a lot more down the road. I know we still maybe got that Kevin Costner one we got.
Right. Well, I know the two of you are big sports guys, so next time we do some sports films, I'm definitely going to reach out to you guys, because we did the baseball, but we got to do football. We definitely got to do some football and basketball. There's so many sports films down the road that we got to do for sure.
But I do film reviews in 60 seconds or less. Try to keep it sweet and to the point, give you the information you need quickly and efficiently, that we can get out to the theater and keep your butt down in the seat and enjoy something. So that's my biggest thing. I definitely have been stretching out a little bit more. I did my own video here talking about the Last Dance documentary, the Michael Jordan documentary. I thoroughly enjoyed that, like you were saying, huge sports guy. So I'll probably talk about that a little bit more as that progresses. And I think I've got a review coming up on Friday for the new Netflix original Extraction, the
nice
Chris Hemsworth movie that's coming out here.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, guys, once again, before we sign off, thank you so much for coming on. I'll definitely have you guys on again, because you guys really crushed it tonight. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, sir.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like down below. It really helps out everything for the whole YouTube algorithm thing. And if you really like this, go ahead, watch more. We got a lot more videos. Go ahead and over there, click. See you later.